Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels, two legends with nearly 100 years of wrestling experience shared between them. Across their Hall of Fame careers, each cemented themselves as masters of the craft. Hogan, with his ability to connect to the crowd, building an army of Hulkamaniacs while carrying the WWF to become a national juggernaut in the 1980s. All before joining WCW to revolutionize wrestling again with the NWO in the mid to late 90s. And HBK with his undisputed in-ring ability. A true chameleon of pro wrestling able to work nearly any style. Mat-based clinics, supersonic sprints, and show-stealing classics at WrestleMania. So when the two were set to collide for the first time ever at SummerSlam 2005, fans were chomping at the bit for what would undoubtedly be a generational dream match. But with time, experience, and millions of dollars comes a battle, not of two legendary figures inside the squared circle, but of their titanic egos found behind the scenes. Hoy and welcome to Read Creative, where I'll be going over Michaels v. Hogan, how it came crashing down, and how it hurt inside. We begin a few years prior in 2002, where Hulk Hogan made his return to the WWE after being away for 8 long years. Once a bastion of good, he was back as the head of the villainous NWO, the same group that had dominated World Championship Wrestling and run it into the ground. And yet, the fans still loved him. During his Icon vs. Icon match against The Rock at WrestleMania 18, the packed crowd in the Toronto Sky Dome flipped the script and showered Hogan in thunderous cheers. After all those years, he was still their knight, clad in red and yellow and telling everyone to eat their vitamins and say their prayers, brother. Despite eventually losing to The Rock, Hogan had once again become the immortal babyface of the 1980s. Dropping the monochromatic NWO and donning a mellow tie-dye red and yellow, the Hulkamaniacs watched their hero battle the odds and defeat Triple H to win the undisputed WWF Championship for what would be his 6th and final time. A short feel-good reign would follow, with Hogan dropping the belt to The Undertaker a month later. Following a brief tag title reign with Edge, Hogan would take a hiatus after being literally crushed by a sentient refrigerator, a young Brock Lesnar in his rookie year. During this time, the NWO was in a freefall and underwent some restructuring to find a new leader.
Who is it? Oh, wait a minute.
And so, 18 months after his last television appearance, was the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, fresh for his new managerial role. Alongside his close friend and original member Kevin Nash, the new World Order was ready to take over. Until Nash tore his quad, and the group subsequently disbanded from there. You hate to see it. In one of the greatest pivots in the history of pro wrestling, HBK began feuding with Triple H, one of his closest friends who had just betrayed him, citing jealousy from years prior when they had formed the tag team group D-Generation X. And so came SummerSlam, an unsanctioned street fight that would serve as Shawn's first match in over 4 years following a severe back injury in 1998. Nobody, not even Shawn himself, knew just how much he had left in the tank. In a spectacular showcase of heart and resilience, HBK got the upset win and proved to everyone that he could still hang. Any remaining doubts were pulled out back and put down like Old Yeller when Shawn went on to win the Elimination Chamber and capture his 4th and final world title, before dropping the belt to Triple H a month later. Hang on a minute. A legend of yesteryear returning in 2002 after spending an extended stint away from WWE television and initially repping the NWO before turning face, all to enjoy one more feel-good title reign that ended after only a month? A reign which began by defeating Triple H, no less.
Something very familiar about all this.
Anyway, HBK was so back, just in time for WrestleMania 19 in March, his first match at the Showcase of the Immortals since his retirement at WrestleMania 14. While Shawn took on Chris Jericho in a battle of teacher versus the student, Hulk Hogan had returned to star in a street fight billed as 20 years in the making. His feud was based on who was responsible for turning the WWE into the wrestling juggernaut, the villainous boss, Mr. McMahon, or the beloved hero, Hulk Hogan. After both successfully conquered their demons at WrestleMania, HBK would continue to feature on television regularly, while Hogan disappeared until his Hall of Fame induction in 2005. Talks began regarding another run for the newly minted Hall of Famer, a potential rivalry with the man he narrowly missed just a few years prior, the one who could carry the aging Hogan to another historic bout. But unfortunately, the story was problematic from the get-go. Originally, it was slated to be a trilogy of matches across the summer and winter, a feud built from mutual respect between two legends of separate eras to see who was the better man. Until out of nowhere, Hogan cited prior back injuries and claimed that he needed to leave after SummerSlam for back surgery. The timing was a little odd since he only mentioned this after being told he would trade wins with Shawn before ultimately winning the final match of the trilogy. But alright. Instead of a trilogy, it would now be the one match at SummerSlam between the two legends. A battle still built off of respect for each other to see who the better man was. What did he say? Really? Ugh, okay. Right. So Hogan would only do the match if HBK turned heel. Okay. So instead of a battle of respect between two legends, it would now be 51-year-old part-time Hulk Hogan as the sympathetic babyface facing off against the full-time, now randomly turned heel, Shawn Michaels. Okay. This should have been expected. Name a better duo than Hulk Hogan and his one true life partner, Creative Control.
Oh my God! What a masterpiece!
Ever since the mid 1980s, Hogan could afford a tremendous pull over the creative direction of his character. Now, as long as the spotlight was on him, everything was hunky dory. But the minute it was passed along to someone else, be it Macho Man Randy Savage, The Ultimate Warrior, Sid Justice, Bret Hart, Hogan always managed to worm his way into their moments and turn it into a shared spectacle so that any success at all would still be associated in some way with him. Undoubtedly, these thoughts were flying through Shawn's head as each revision was faced with a stern, "That doesn't work for me, brother." Hogan wasn't interested in telling any new stories. He was only interested in telling his story. The same tired old story from 1985. Babyface Hulk Hogan triumphs against the latest heel prospect. But HBK, he had a plan. Shawn was no stranger to wrestling politics. Hell, at his absolute worst in the mid-90s, Shawn could have written a book titled How to Politic Off the Locker Room with Your Offbeat Shenanigans. So Shawn decided that if Hogan wanted to live in the past and be the strong, conquering babyface so badly, then he was obligated to tap into his own past and become the worst version of himself just one more time. HBK still went along with the plans to make Hogan look strong, but not just strong. HBK decided to make him look so cartoonishly strong that the match itself would more closely resemble a live-action Looney Tunes sketch than a grounded wrestling match between heated rivals. In the build to SummerSlam, HBK would spend weeks trashing Hogan's image, going so far as to play dress-up just to poke fun at Hogan's advanced age. Shawn's pride may have taken a hit playing second fiddle to Hogan's plans, but he was dead set on making the build as entertaining as possible, all the while slowly turning up the heat as he crept closer and closer to his 90s persona, laced with disrespect.
Hulk Hogan, you've been living off a reputation that you created 20 years ago. I go out there every single night and recreate myself.
And so we arrive at SummerSlam 2005, the main event of the biggest party of the summer. And from the very first lockup, Shawn's shocking sabotage begins. Hogan gives him a pair of forceful shoves, sending Michaels careening halfway across the ring, all while Hogan flexes and works the crowd. A running shoulder block follows, sending HBK ragdolling out of the ring, where he continues to flail his limbs in anger. Mostly a silly overreaction to make Hogan look like a superhero. After a very brief comeback, Shawn is thrown into the corner and, good lord above, takes off like a rocket several times from Hogan's kicks. Now they may look slow, but Michaels would have you believe each kick could send him into orbit. Hogan doesn't let up, maybe thinking to himself, wow dude, he's making me look great, before smashing Shawn's head into the buckle so ferociously, he does a front flip out of the corner. Already, the match has found a gear that it would never change out of. Michaels flying across the ring like it's 1995, not 2005, as he gets clotheslined over the top rope, flipping around like a drunk acrobat before tripping on a cable and face planting onto concrete. A vaudevillian act from the Heartbreak Kid, who then gets beat up for another 5 straight minutes before finally getting the upper hand on Hogan, attacking his eye with a flurry of stiff, calculating right hands that eventually draw blood. After 10 full minutes of Hogan looking nigh unstoppable, Shawn Michaels has finally entered the equation, slapping a sleeper hold onto Hogan with villainous intent, Hulk's mortal blood oozing across the ring and HBK's body. After a ref bump, the fuggliest sharpshooter, and a low blow, Shawn pastes Hulk Hogan with an unprotected chair shot to the head, just to be safe. All before tuning up the band for sweet chin music, just for Hulk Hogan to kick out at a strong 2 count and start hulking up. 11 full minutes of heat and taking Shawn's biggest moves just to kick out and no sell any punishment. Of course. The vintage Hulk Hogan formula since 1984. And yet, the crowd exploded for Hogan, ultimately proving that the 20-year-old formula was tried and true. 3 punches and an Irish whip later, Michaels was hit with the big boot. But in a final glorious FU to Hogan, Shawn ate the boot, took an entire bump, immediately jumped back to his feet, all before taking a flip bump just to get into position for the immortal leg drop. In those final moments, Hogan turns around just in time to see Michaels' flip bump, and he looks genuinely surprised that he hadn't sold the move right. As if the entire match wasn't Shawn selling every punch like he was on the moon. Some pantomime and a leg drop later, Hulk Hogan reigned supreme at SummerSlam, ending Shawn's undefeated streak at the event and proving to the world that Hulkamania still ruled. And yet, by the next night on Monday Night Raw, nothing really mattered. Hulk went back home while Shawn came out and said that Hulk was indeed the better man, before promptly turning face again as if nothing happened. Shawn continued wrestling, the world kept spinning, and Hogan sat at home until next year's SummerSlam. As for the legacy of HBK versus Hogan, well, the match itself was legendary, but not because of the stature of the competitors or for the story they told, but because of Shawn's overzealous selling. Hogan may have won the match, satisfying his ego, but HBK had won the war. 1990 Shawn had returned for one more self-indulged spectacle that stole the show. No one was talking about Hulk Hogan. They were all talking about Shawn Michaels. And that was all he needed. It was the perfect revenge for a battle of egos. And on that bombshell, it's time to end. This is the Voice of the Village Recreative signing off.